we are working to enhance the fractals and recursion project from the YByte Python curriculum. Having added a concept of level to our code, in fact, now we can do something really cool. So now level is an argument. I can make different levels become colorful, which means that all I need to do is to say, well, let me create a list called say color list. And I can add, let's say, whatever colors I want. So I just go and say, well, look, red, for example, say blue. Now this is up to me, of course, what colors I want, but let's say I choose these colors. You can be very creative here. So magenta, say magenta, say teal, and let's just say I put purple. Right now, again, like I said, this is entirely how creative you want to be. But notice before I you notice, however, that I've changed my L list to go from 0 until -5, which means there are really 6 levels, and that's all I need, right? But if I want a bigger level, if I want more levels, then obviously I need to make this list longer. So all I need to do now is to say that, well, look, t dot color is, let's say, given by, let's say, color, so CLR list and level. And really, this is all we need to do because everything else is set up. So let's say I ran -125, -125, 0. You notice now my colors of the squares are depending on the level, and it looks pretty cool, right? So it's the whole fractal has become colorful, and we can clearly see which level is happening at what point. And that's the beauty of this. Now with the levels being defined, I know this is, let's say, level 0, then the blue one is level 1, and so on and so forth. Now in fact, we could go and do a little bit more. I can go and say, look, let me also fill in the colors for this, whatever colors I'm using. So let me just go and say t dot begin fill. You notice I start filling up the whole, the square before a square is drawn. And once the square gets over, I just go and say t dot end fill. Now what this will do is to fill up these squares. But obviously, when we draw more and more, then some of the squares will get overwritten, as we'll just see. You notice red got filled, blue got filled. In fact, if we see it, all the squares are getting filled up, and we can see them, like as some kind of, let's say, tiles or something like that that have been put together. So the same fractal pattern that we started with filled color looks very different. Now it's interesting to just think of what happens when we, let's say, reverse the order. Let's say, I do the recursion first and then the drawing later. We have seen this before, but it's quite interesting when you're filling the colors. So let's say I just go and tell, this piece of code, which is, let's say, here right now. Remember, I first draw and then I call the lower level. Let's say I reverse the order. So I just go and say, well, look, first let me go deeper and deeper in the recursion stack. Now we know that the lowest level will get drawn first here, which means the smallest square will get drawn first. But it's very important to realize that this setting has to happen after the recursion has been done, because the reason is this, right? Remember, if level is less than 5, I keep going deeper and deeper, but the moment level becomes equal to 5, in fact, I'm going to draw. At that point, I want the color to be purple. So think about it. At every level, I want the color to be whatever is given here. The drawing actually starts here. That is when it becomes relevant. So which means I must have the color selection after, let's say, this recursion is over. Very interesting to think about this. And experiment also what happens if I don't follow this. So when we run this, as expected, the smaller squares get drawn first, but now because of the fill, in fact, the smaller squares get obscured, right? So the end outcome now, actually is the same, but because the way this thing is set up, it looks quite different, because all the inner squares which are in here have just been obscured by the other squares, right? So that's the difference because when we now change the order. Very, very interesting to think about this. What's going on with the recursion stack. And making it visual really, really helps to understand this. So do think about it, and very happy to discuss if you have questions. But in general, building activities makes programming interesting. That is how we learn at YByte. Look at our website, www.ybyte.in, because we learn Python programming through such fun activities. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.